afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the Uplifting Waiting Room podcast. I know many of you are wondering, what is this podcast all about? Upliftment, waiting room. You know, every time we are always in a waiting period. It could be a waiting period and you're waiting for a career change, a relationship change, something to just get out of the funk that you're in. So we're just putting together this podcast so, you know, we can talk about different topics in regards to relationship, finances, whatever challenges you're going through. And everybody goes through something in their life. In their time, everybody goes through something. So we're coming up with this uplifting podcast. My name is Mina. I'm going to be your host of this podcast. We will be bringing this podcast every other Friday. And today we have two guests. We have Daisy, which is a
Daisy
nurse
Dukes
and a licensed yoga instructor. And we have D in the building.
Big D.
Who has been through some life experiences and challenges.
Man, emotional roller coaster.
And I always say, challenges is the best teacher. So don't feel like, you know, you're being judged or anything. We're just here to just talk, get it off your chest, and just be able to come up with some resolution to what we can do for when you're in that waiting room. And a lot of times people think of a waiting room as being in a hospital, right? The hospital waiting room. Mm-hmm. And you go there because you're going through some physical stuff. But this waiting room is some spiritual, some emotional stuff one is going to. This is like the waiting room where people don't see what's going on inside. People don't see the pain that people are going on inside. And a lot of times people don't want to talk about it because they don't want to feel judged or someone's judging them or someone's looking down on me. Whereas this uplifting waiting room, we're just here to uplift, encourage, empower, laugh, have fun, God first in everything that we do. And we just, you know, we want people to relate. If you have like questions or anything, you know, you can reach out to us. But I'm just going to ask my two guests here to give a little background of what does a waiting room, an uplifting waiting room means to them. So we're going to go to Daisy.
Okay.
And what can we say to our viewers about this podcast? Because a person could be saying, okay, why are we doing this? We have so many inspirational speakers out there, and why are we doing this? Yes, there are so many inspirational speakers out there. But do we have a lot of inspirational speakers in the state of Rhode Island?
Nope.
The smallest state.
Listen, we all in crabs in the bucket. Everybody's trying to find and get a piece, man.
Some people don't even know where Rhode Island is. We're on the East Coast, smashed between New York and Connecticut and Mass. So, what does what does it mean being in a waiting room?
I like how you said that. Some might say that Rhode Island is the waiting room to New York or to a bigger place. Well, thank you so much for having me on the Waiting Room inaugural podcast. I'm honored to be here. And I guess the question is, I think a particular waiting room that I've been in is when I feel stuck. I'm kind of dialing it in, and because I'm waiting and I feel like I can't move forward until something falls into place. So I'm waiting, and I think the waiting room could be what you make of it. You could be anxious, like in the emergency room, or, you know, if you were in the waiting room, say just for an interview. I think, again, it's like a place where you're trying to prepare, but you're in limbo. And what can you do with that? Some people might have anxiety, or some people might get frustrated, like when you're in traffic and you're waiting to get somewhere. So how do you, when you're tested and you're in this place that feels stuck, how do you navigate that? And for me, I have found I have to let stress out of my body. So for me, it's yoga and breathing, and then getting my body in a place that feels calm so that I can then open myself up to prayer, meditation, and then I feel like I'm able to be inspired and move forward.
That's a good thing. Good thing you brought about prayer. and spirituality. Because there are some people who believe in God, right?
And then there's some that don't.
And there's some people that don't believe in
Great
God.
topic, man.
You know?
You know what I'm saying?
So that's why I brought it up, because for me personally, my faith is very, it's number one. I believe in God. Yes, I go to church, but there are some people who don't. There's some people who believe in God,
Like
but they're
me.
on the fence. So
I'm the one who's on the fence.
So D
Okay.
right
I'm
here,
the one who's on the fence.
you're in your waiting room period, because
Yes,
we're all
I am
in a
my
waiting room.
But the reason why I'm in my waiting room is because it's my own fault.
See, I like that, because
Okay, accountability.
You are honest, and you're taking accountability for
It's my
what
own
you
fault.
what you've been through,
Yeah.
and someone's like you right now who's saying, I've made a lot of mistakes and people are judging me and whatnot.
I
So-
smoke weed, bro. I'm telling you right now, I smoke a lot of weed. Nah, all jokes aside. But, yeah, being in the waiting room is kind of hard. Especially it pays a lot of toll on your mental, especially being a young black man.
Mhm.
Stuff that people don't see or clearly don't want to see can trigger, because as men, we're taught to suffer in silence.
Mm.
Don't express your emotions. Go day by day and push on and push on and push on. So sometimes you just feel stuck
Yeah.
in one area because of your friends, the people you grew up with, your family. They all come around you like vultures,
Mhm.
and they want you to be this person that you're not comfortable being. So that's why like you're just stuck in a whole entire waiting room of people telling you what to do,
Yeah.
how you should move, how
Mhm.
you should live your life, and it's kind of tough sometimes.
It is tough, because you brought up an important point as a man, not just African American man in this world. I saw something somewhere that there was a guy who was crying, right, and he was talking to this girl, and the girl said to him, "Oh, you need to man up."
Oh,
Right
wow.
there. So here's this person who he probably called that person to express what
Right.
he's going through, and then
Right.
this female said, "Well, you need to man up." And I think sometimes too in society we kind of overlook that men do have emotions, and if a man cries,
He's
that's a
considered
pro-
weak.
He's considered weak. But this is the thing is that we want them to express themselves, right?
Correct.
But it's been hard for men to express ourselves because of women. Not to get me wrong, but back in the day when old grandpappy was out here slinging, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Slinging and stressing. Men would work 40 hours, 50 hours, coming home, women cook dinner. But now things are changed. Things is like the woman wants to do as much as the men, and the men also want to provide for the women.
Okay.
So now that we're providing as much and the women want to, sorry ladies, but it's how I feel.
No, don't say sorry. We're
Want to come in and justify their reasons of why things should be done the way that they should do from their perspective.
So would you say that women wants to try to take the role of the woman and the man?
Yes, actually, yes. That's why you guys are fighting for equal rights, right?
But-
But if a man says equality, actually, my bad, let me rephrase that. Women want equality, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I feel like everything should be fair across the board. 50-50 on it, right? You take out the trash. Don't wait for me to come from work tired all day long. Then standing on my feet and you want me to go throw out the trash when you over here talking about equality.
Right. You're saying like rules and conditioning, and because you appear to be a man, then this should be your rule. You should be taking out the trash, and then you should suck it up
And provide and do
provide,
this.
and you don't complain, and you what is it, the stiff upper lip, or
You just keep your mouth closed and let the women talk.
Well, this is gonna be a big discussion in
Oh,
one
let
of our
it be-
other
let it be a
podcasts,
big
because
discussion,
now
'cause
it's gonna
you know
be
who
like
said it.
they're gonna be like men and women in the waiting room. You mentioned women want equality, but you remember there's different categories.
There's always a different
So
category.
that's something for a later podcast that we're gonna go more in depth about the battle of the sexes.
That was just a sneak peek.
Yes, that was a sneak peek. We're not gonna put everything on this on this discussion tonight, but you did bring up a good point, and you did bring up another good point about how men are supposed to be in society, what society wants men to be, and when men express their emotions, it's like, oh, he's a little bit too weak. I don't want that. So what do we want? If we're in a waiting room, what do you want from a guy? Do you want him to express himself or not? So So that's something that, and another thing, society too. Why do we always go by what society thinks or what people think?
Because it was programmed like that, man. Since it was babies.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
then-
think so.
so
Conditioning
and
since we were brought up.
that's what we have. Another thing is that's what we have: worldly views and godly views.
But you
And
also got to
that's-
admit that the godly views also come into play with the worldly views.
The godly views do come into play with that, but also too, when the two intertwine, people start to take out godly views and put in their own perspective on how they should live their life. You know what I mean? It's like I always equip like the waiting room. Like you go to an emergency room, right? You're having chest pain. You're sitting in that waiting room, and you're waiting for someone to call your name to do, to check you out, whatever. You could be sitting there for a while. Some people walk out because they don't want to, the waiting period is so long. So think about sitting in that waiting room, right, in an emergency room for hours, whereas a spiritual waiting room, you could be sitting in a situation for years. And in the years that you're sitting and waiting, what do? Like, that's the time where people make decisions when their back is caught against a rock in a hard place. They make decisions. Sometimes they make irrational decisions because they've been waiting too long, or they've been praying for something, and they're like, you know what, God's not listening to me. You know what, I'm just gonna do my own thing. So you see, that's how it intertwines.
But some people can't wait forever.
That is true. That's why patience is a virtue too.
Patience is a virtue, but I ain't gonna be patient for 50 years.
How long did Abraham wait to have a
I'm not
child?
Abraham.
But we're gonna talk about
I'm
that
not
at
Abraham.
another
I'll be slinging bullets now.
at another episode.
Hold on. But I feel like we lost something here. I want to talk about your waiting room and feeling that you have to be you feel like your people want you to be something.
All right.
And how do you navigate that? And how
She
do you navigate
navigates
that?
acting bad, man. That's how I navigate.
Is that how you? Is that?
You rebel.
I rebelled.
rebel?
Yeah, I rebelled. My mama said no tattoos. Said no earrings. Put earrings in my
Listen,
ear.
this is like a little brother of mine. So
Yeah,
I've been knowing him for years.
She knows.
Everything that it said don't do, he did. He did it.
I'm the type of person so for example, my mom's African, right? Believe in faith, holy, go to church on a Sunday. If you fuck up, she gonna smack you across the face. That's how she is. Then you got my stepfather, who I thought was chill, cool. Came in, swept her off her feet, blase, what happened? I always tell this story, which gets me mad. Imagine, it's on your birthday, right? And you ain't doing nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. You go home, you go chill with your girlfriend, you ask your mom if you go to the movies or whatever. She says yes. You come back home, nobody's at the house, you're locked out. You call your sisters, they're at their cheerleading practice, right? You feel everything is okay. You go ask for the keys, your sister says go call your dad. Call my stepfather. He said he's not giving me the keys. Don't know why. So I drive to my uncle's house. He and my uncle are already drinking. Don't get me wrong, I was the black sheep in the family. Still am the black sheep, so. He said, don't come back to the house. Why? Just on my birthday. I ain't doing nothing wrong. I just turned 21. Getting kicked out on my birthday.
Oh.
Because why? Because I don't like to listen. But it's not my fault. How are you a parent and don't spend time with your kids and don't want to be around them? You work 24/7. That's good. You're a man. You're doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But you're also not paying attention into your kid's life and want him to be a person that he's not going to be. So now you instilled all your hopes and dreams onto this person, which he doesn't want. He wants to be his own person, make his own choices. Yeah, he may fuck up, but it's all a learning process. So now you're telling me I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta be like my brother. Yeah, my brother graduated, he's a nurse, blase. That's cool, great for him, but that's not my path.
Right.
It's not my path. But again, African people see only degrees. They don't see outside of a degree. They just, everything else is pointless. You gotta go get a degree.
Even if that
Even
degree
if
doesn't
do you anything good,
dry out your soul. Even if
completely rots you to hell, you still gotta get that degree.
And we're from West Africa, so
So now you imagine the
conservative,
pressure.
strict parents.
Yeah.
And I imagine the pressure. Now that I got my girlfriend pregnant, now that's 10 times.
Congratulations.
Well, it was 3 years ago.
Oh.
But I'm telling the story.
Okay.
So now she's pregnant. I'm over here sleeping on her floor in her room and not being able to go home, not being able to see my mom. He refused for me to go back to the house. He told me I can't even see her, blase, blase, blase. So yeah, that's some of the waiting. So now I gotta figure out, like, in my mental, now I'm stuck. Right? How do I get out of this situation? How do I move forward from this situation? Living from couch to couch to couch, from friends' apartments to this place to that place. How do I get out of this situation? How do I move on from this situation? So, I'm in the waiting room, man.
So you've been in the waiting room for years.
Been in the waiting room for years.
Because of you wanting to be your authentic self.
My true self.
So I think that's what this whole podcast is about, because there is somebody who is going through this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
how do you empower and encourage that person not to give up, you know? Even though the going...
They have to, so I say smoke weed, man. They have to find their own way.
Yes.
But we here to help. They got to find their own way. They got to really ask themselves, like, before even this podcast, me and my girl was planning on doing our own podcast, like I told you before. And I told you I started twitching, working. So they just got to find their own way to hustle. Because I'm a hustler. By hustling, I feel like I can escape what I'm going through and just chill. By smoking weed, I feel like I don't need to be angry all the time. I can just relax, enjoy my family, and just take it day by day. There's nothing to stress if you got family around. But as a youngin', I didn't understand that. And now that I've grown and seen my daughter grow up and all this, I'm like, yeah, I'm not living for me now. I gotta smile every day, make sure she's loved, make sure she's happy, make sure that she's not stressing. That's how I escaped the waiting room, because I put all my energy and focus into my daughter.
And you found a way, it sounds like, just through, you know, smoking some THC or whatever. It's
Buy a
just a
zip
coping.
a day, man. An ounce a day. Imagine that.
Oh.
Not an ounce a day.
But no, I think that's
An
a
ounce
way
a week,
that
actually.
you
I mean,
cope.
every Friday, an ounce a week. 24 grams.
He's too much. But no, that's good, because there's other ways. I mean, people may not want some THC when I'm promoting that, but
I was talking about how I might use exercise, but I think we're
Yeah,
talking about
exercise, yeah,
something
what you
that
use
we're
to
using
escape.
so,
to.
yeah, there's different channels.
You could go run. You can go play some video games. Go to the gun range. Let out your anger. Go play some football, intramural, basketball. Take your kids to the park, man. It's all
Yeah.
about the kids. That's all I got to say.
So that's good. Well, we're not gonna dish all the good stuff,
Right,
all
well-
the good topics.
No, but I feel like Big D brought up a good point. Like, when you're in the waiting room, you don't, and you brought up a good point, you don't have control.
No.
You don't have control over when that person is going to come check you out for chest pain. You don't have control over the keys.
No.
It's a big day for you. It's an important day for you. And this person is, instead of being a nurturer and wanting to protect and guide you, it sounds like they want to, it's a control thing. Like, they want to, you do this or that's it. We're going to come down 10 times harder than necessary. Like, that's what I heard.
But you see what you see what makes it so unique. Like, with a physical issue, you know, they get treated, they leave, right?
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with a spiritual battle,
Yeah.
an internal battle, an emotional battle, which that can affect the physical. So now you're
Yeah.
battling two different things,
And you get blinded by anger.
and you get blinded by stuff, you know?
And
So-
then that anger could lead to like an ulcer
Yeah.
or
It-
something. I do think that the body keeps score, and that's a famous book, and that the it manifests in the body. So if you're feeling that anger and that tension, and you puff, and then you feel like that relaxation, then you feel probably more calm for your daughter. I don't know. That's just the vibe I'm getting.
yeah, I mean, he
No. Turning this to you, what do you do? Like, what are your coping skills for like when you're in the waiting room? What kind of things do you do?
What is your coping
Well, my
skills?
coping skills, I'll say this. I think I mentioned earlier that my faith is very important. You know, being from West Africa too, especially coming from Liberia, just a little bit of Liberia history. We went through a civil war you know, and a lot of us were, displaced in different countries, and we ended up here in America. So adapting to, you have your culture and you have the American culture, and as he said, your parents, they, there's some strict conservative views.
Right, so they're going by their culture, but you're coming up here.
And which is...
My mama's favorite saying was, when you go out in them streets is America, but when you get your ass back in here is Africa.
Yeah, so not that you're not learning. Don't get me wrong. You learn from both cultures and stuff, and even going to my own personal waiting room and stuff like that. One of my coping, like I said, my faith is very important. Being close to God is very important. But also, too, I like to just go out. I love to walk. I just love to... breath of fresh air, just sitting there having that tilt with God. Like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Everybody has different coping mechanism. Other people, some people go and box. Some people, some people pray. But also, too, when you pray, sometimes you also need something else to, like, ease your mind. So what do? Because you could get we could get a viewer who said, well, I've been praying for 5-10 years, like, what else do I do? And I think having this discussion and having people around to say, hey, you're not in this alone. We all go through it. Everybody's been through a waiting room. So for me, my spirituality and my faith in God is my number one coping mechanism. So, but we ain't gonna put everything out. This has been good. This has been good. We have put a lot out there. This is just an introduction of what this podcast will be all about, and and what we're going to be talking about. I think one of our next podcast, we'll be talking about the art of letting go.
Oh, wow.
How do we let go of certain things?
Sure, let's not get started.
I mean, that's going to be a long one, and that's something that
work in progress.
We're going to ponder on, because that's one thing is people can't let go, even though they say they let go, but something could just trigger it and boom, they're back. So that'll be like a big topic, which I know is going to be hot. Letting go. But
you can let go, but you can't forgive.
See, that's why it's going to be a big topic, because you know why? There's going to be a lot of views on that, but we're going to talk about it. We ain't going to put it out now. We're going to put it out now. In 2 weeks on our next
letting go.
Our next podcast in the uplifting waiting room, we're going to talk about the art of letting go and how can you let go.
Oh,
so, but.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done. It is easier said than done, and I don't want to cut this, but just wanted to just introduce to the viewer what the uplifting waiting room is going to be all about. As you saw today, a taste test of fun, laughing, jokes. We're just going to talk about everything. You got to keep a sense of humor. You got to keep a sense of humor. When you're going through your stuff, when you're going through your challenges, and you just don't want to even be bothered with people, you have to have a good sense of humor. And you
laugh at yourself.
Laugh at yourself. Yes. And you always have to have authentic people around you who are not going to judge you, who are just going to be like, you know what, I don't have to say anything to you. I'm just going to sit here with you in this quiet space, because just your presence makes a difference for certain people. Sometimes people don't want to hear, well, you should do it this way. You should do it that way. No, that's not what we're here for. This is the uplifting waiting room. We're letting you know that if you're going through something, you're not the only one. You're not in honest alone. Let's talk about it. So, we just want to thank you. We're just introducing this. We want to thank Daisy.
Thank you.
And Dee.
Check up on your strong friends, because they might be strong, but they mentally broken.
Yes. Oh. And not just on their feet, men too. I always say this. Men go through some emotional stuff. We can't overlook them too, because they in this world, in the society, they have to be strong, because but they go through their stuff too. So, but this is the uplifting waiting room. Thank you. All right, you can find us. I'll have a email, which is ulift42@gmail.com. We'll be on a major platform, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Okay.
I ain't got a Facebook. You can find me on Snapchat. I can answer any questions.
Snapchat, and we just thank you. We will be doing this podcast every other Friday, and we'd love for you to join us. Thanks for having us, and have a good night. With the viewers.